Here's a question that's worth sitting with. If someone asked you right now, on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you really doing? Not any polished answer, but the real one. Because most of us would hesitate because we know the difference between the number we say and the number we really feel. And today's guest has built an entire coaching process around that gap. Welcome back to another episode of Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. I am Sayan, as some of you would know, and this is the show where we have real and honest conversations about what it generally takes to feel well in your mind, your body, your relationship, and your sense of self. My guest today is Steve Barton, a Gestalt-certified mindset coach, entrepreneur, author, and the creator of The Game of 10, a registered coaching process that has transformed the lives of individuals, executives, and teams across the country, and was presented to the case study team at Harvard University in 2025. Steve has spent over 40 years, yes, 4 decades, building and running businesses before turning that lived wisdom into a coaching practice grounded in awareness, self-acceptance, and what he calls living at a 10. He's also the co-author of The Father, The Son, and The Aha Moment, written alongside his son Spencer. So that's a lot in there, Steve. So it's really good to have you here, and excited to see where this conversation really opens up to.
Well, thank you very much, Sam, for having me on your show. And I'm looking forward to great questions. And hopefully I can answer to you and your audience and give you all the answers that I can do. And thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, likewise, Steve. It's great to have you here, and I'm excited to learn a little about what that entire process is that you have probably spent, 4 decades, and you have just compressed that into a formal structure framework. So before we go there, I want to start somewhere personal, right? So since you have spent 4 decades as a business owner before you became a coach, and that's not really a small thing to leave behind. So what was the moment or the accumulation of moments that made you say that this is actually what I really need to be doing?
Well, I was probably 45 years, actually, because I took over when I'm going to be 70 in September. And I took over when my family business was 22. So I'll have to change that. And what was my big aha moment was I had gone to at 36 years old, I had everything in the world that I wanted and I wasn't happy. So I brought myself to a therapist, and that's the first thing I said to him. He said, "Why are you here?" I said, "I have everything in the world that I want. I'm not happy. That's messed up." I didn't use those words. I used the other word. And he laughed, and I said, "How long is it I said to him, "How long is it going to take and what can I expect?" And he said to me, I tell my clients 3 months, but you're halfway there. So knowing that you're messed up and haven't figured it out, so within 3 sessions, I was good to go, and I'd figured out who I was. I had a awakening, if you will, major awakening during that time, and I realized who I was, and it took me a while to assimilate that, and really it wasn't it was I'm still assimilating, constantly growing, constantly awakening. I think awakening and awareness is infinite. So if you stop becoming awake, then you stop growing. And I love to grow and I love to learn. So I love sharing my thoughts, feelings, and emotions with other people, helping them understand theirs. And that's my passion right now. So I love it.
Hey, dear listeners, before we begin, a quick note from Healthy Mind Be Awake. This episode is created for educational and informational purposes only. The views shared by our guests are their own and may not reflect those of the host or network. Nothing in this conversation should be taken as medical, legal, financial, or professional advice. Please consult a qualified professional before making important decisions. We encourage you to listen with curiosity, think independently, and use this content as a starting point for reflection, not a substitute for professional guidance. Now, settle in and enjoy the conversation.
Wow. And I think that's a brutal reminder that no matter how old or how experienced you are, breakthrough in this context is not a single process, right? It needs to happen again and again, as you go through in any direction of your life. And I think, you summed it up pretty well. So, Steve, the game of 10, when, people first hear this, there's a lot of things that could come to mind. They might picture a performance scorecard or some kind of productivity system. So I'm curious to understand, what is it? Like, can you walk us into what the game of 10 actually is and why you framed it as a game also?
Because I feel that life is a game, and it's how you play it is how successful you are. And to be your authentic self is the winning of the game. And to be,
Yeah, I agree.
yeah, you win. You're your authentic self. And what are you going to do with it? Now that you know you can have everything in the world that you want, what do you want? How are you going to get it? What's your idea? And how are you going to strategize to do it in a way that's respectful towards yourself and others? Play fairly. The game of 10 is about playing fairly. And as opposed to the game often played 1 through 9. So I'll keep this as simple as possible for everybody because it is simple, just not easy.
Okay. Okay.
So we're appointed 10. Everyone is appointed 10 at birth. And then we have disappointments. We have trauma. We have people, places, and situations that happen to us that we hold on to. And from the age of, I think the Jesuits said, give me a child at 0 to 7, I'll give you the man. And Dr. Bruce Lipton says, from the age of 0 to 7, we're in a state of theta. So everything that happens with us, for us, or against us, we hold on to in a hypnotic state. And we spend the rest of our lives living out of that hypnotic state of disappointment from that lens of awareness that we don't even know that we don't even remember what happened to us, but we know that it was something like abandonment, something like abuse, something like traumas. And it can be basic little disappointments, okay, that bring you down to 9, or major disappointments like abandonment of your parents, growing up in an abusive foster home or adoption, what's it called, an orphanage, something like that, that people are traumatized. And unless you have the right systems and learn how to let go, aka forgive, that you can't get over it. So you see life through a lens of that trauma or disappointment. So I call that the game often played 1 through 9. And you have to so I do a lot of work with 8s, 9s, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay. 10s of, if I get a hold of a 10, they fill the discovery form, you're a 10. What do you need, a friend? Yes. It's lonely at the top, but you're going to find people who are also 10.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
so people who are 10s, 9s, 8s, 7s, the lower down the awareness you are, you think the 10s are crazy. What do you mean you're going to do that? What do you mean you think that? So it's a level of awareness and it's a level of sanity too. The closer you get to 10, the more sane you are. And I mean that in a healthy way, that we're either sane or we're insane, and it's temporarily, unless it's chronic. Okay, I want chronic sanity.
Yeah, I love what you shared, Steve. Those were like, there's a lot of stuff that is shared, and I think to me it's a new vantage point because instead of seeing it as, you know, when you are born, instead of seeing as, you go like 1 to 10, you're seeing it as 10. And whatever happens, you're coming down the order and then you fight again to, reach that 10 again, right? That's a new vantage point. I mean, definitely for me. And I think there's a lot of things that did resonate with me, but curious to know. So if you could share us an example of, what's the perspective of a 10, versus maybe a 7 that you have met with so many people so far, how differently do they think? And because I think I really relate with what you said, it's loneliness at the top. I agree. I think, yeah, it is like, I mean, as far as I could think of, there's a level of isolation or alienation that you need to go through, or maybe you are in to achieve, that 10. But I mean, curious to know from your experiences and, coaching other people, what is that you have observed with different levels? So if you could share maybe, 9 to 10, then 7 to 8, and then 1 to 6.
Well, okay. First of all, you never cannot be 10. Okay. Let's get that straight. Everyone's 10. Everyone. And we have to be a 10, you have to see others as 10, but you also see that they haven't had the awareness or they haven't let go of certain people, places, or situations that happened to them in the past. So in order to be 10, you have to see everyone as 10 and doing the best they can with the awareness that they have, that they are right in their perspective with the awareness they have. So you have to be unconditioned and unconditionally accepting of that's where they're at. That's okay. Okay. You don't have to have lunch with them. You don't have to be friends with them. You just have to say, okay, this is where you are. This is
important.
Yeah. So I'll start with 1 to 3. You people who are in there 1 to 3, one's a suicidal. They are just, life sucks. Life has been bad to me. I want to die. Okay. And each time you go up to 2 to 3, you have an aha moment. Well, 2, life's not that bad. I'm not going to do harm to myself or others. I know I'm going to do some work on myself. It's 3, still pretty low level awareness that, probably in abject poverty, probably life looks pretty bad. And what happens is when you're at these levels, you attract that level of people, places, and situations. So manifestation is you get what you are. You attract who you are. So if you're vibrating at that level of awareness and operating, you are going to show every evidence in what life will present itself to you from that level of awareness. So yes, they are right. It does at that level. So you have to have, I don't know if it's faith or the awareness to know that I'm changing my mindset. I am happy. I am healthy. I am wealthy or abundant. I am whole. I am perfect as I am right now. Life is perfect as it is right now. It doesn't mean you don't throw out intentionality saying, I am wealthy. I am happy. So you can't break through unless you are happy where you are. You can't break through unless you are healthy as you are. You can't break through that level and that resistance to that. So 1 to 3, hard. 3 to 6, better. Once you get over 5, you're halfway there. And then the 6 and 7s and 8s and 9s are the toughest to work with because they don't want to give up. They don't want to give up control. They've succeeded in life. They tend to be perfectionists and always striving for perfection, which is the highest form of self-abuse. So they will never be happy completely because everything's not perfect. So you have to see 10 is perfection on a platter. It is perfect where you are. And the leap from 9 to 10 is letting go of control of life. So the paradox is when you let go of control, you have total control. And you're in alignment with universal source, universal God, universal awareness, the universe infinite of life. When you let go, all possibilities happen. And then you have to ask, what do you really want? And is it in alignment with your values, your purpose, your mission? What's important? Is it something you want to do the rest of your life? So follow you, as I forget this, Joseph Campbell, follow your bliss. Where's your bliss? 10 is content. Most of the time I'm content. Sometimes I have moments of bliss, but it's pretty natural. But I never get depressed. I rarely get angry. And if I do, I'll go, okay, where'd that come from? I call it psychic flossing. Where did that come from? Hopefully I explained that to you.
Yeah, that was perfect. And the idea that particularly resonated to me was that, perfectionism is just, it's in theory. I mean, there's, I believe that nobody is perfect because there's always room to improve. You can be no matter, very good at a thing, no matter what that is, and you could still look up and, thrive to be better. I think that is what, yeah. See if you want to say something to that.
How about this? You are always perfect. You can develop your skills to do better. How's that?
Well, yeah, I like that. I like that. I think that's a new way of perhaps approaching it. And I think the thing about awareness that you said earlier, right? It doesn't care how long you have been asleep in this journey. I think the moment you wake up, it's that decision that you decide to make that the game changes, right? And I think that's probably one of the most hopeful things that you can tell someone. So I think, out of all the things he said, Steve, I just want to ask you something on behalf of whoever needs it the most today. There's someone listening, maybe who's quietly exhausted or who has been holding it together on the outside, on the paper, but knows the real number is much lower than what they're showing to the world. So what would you invite them to think about and hear from you right now?
Take a nap, get some rest, take care of yourself first. You're not doing anyone any favors by giving to others without giving to yourself first. Yeah, that is what my biggest thing. You can't help others unless you've been helped yourself. You can't heal others unless you're healed yourself. So it is not selfish in the small s sense, it's selfish in the big S. You cannot help save the world until you save yourself. So that's my biggest advice to people.
Yeah, I think that's important. That's an important one. And, the most common example that I have in my mind is, the instruction that you get when the flight is about to take off, that, you got to put your mask on before, you help someone. So I think that analogy really applies to pretty much in every sphere of our lives. And Steve, I think this has been really, an eye-opening conversation about how you see not just awareness, but how do you approach opportunities and, thrive to be better as well. But for the listeners who actually resonated with what they heard today and wants to explore the game of 10, connect with your work, or just follow or want to follow what you're putting out into the world, including the book as well, where can they find you and the book and the framework at?
Well, you can find me on my website, and you can download a free book on my website, e-copy, at www.stevebartoncoaching.com. And it's on Amazon. If you'd like to buy a copy, great. If you do, please write a review. It's a parenting book, The Father, the Son, the Aha Moment, Tools for Helping You and Your Child Develop a Path to Happiness. It's written for parenting, but it's also written for people that don't have children, who have an inner child to heal. And it's really about always healing. To be a great parent, you have to heal your inner child, or you're going to repeat the same patterns as your parents did with you. They were great parents, great. If they were not so great parents, you will repeat that. So if you want to break the cycle, heal yourself. So I think those are the two best places. I'm on LinkedIn as well. Check out, you can always contact me in any of those places. So
Wow, Steve, I really loved what you shared towards the end as well, and I think that's an important one. And definitely, I would definitely recommend it to, especially all the parents as well, and whoever wants to break free through that vicious cycle, like you said. So, would have all the details in the show notes so that people could easily reach out to you and find your book as well. And the Game of 10, I suppose it's on the frameworks on the website. Is that right?
it's part of the father's. It's part of the book that you'll use for parents. I have a new book coming out in the next 6 months called The Game of 10. So it's going to be more directly not about parenting. It's going to be about the game itself. And so I hope all listeners will know they are always 10. And yes, you can improve your communications, you can your relationship skills, you can improve your skills, but you can't improve you. You are perfect as you are. You can never get perfect. You are perfect.
Brilliant. I think that really, sums it up. And to the listeners who are listening to this, I would just like to, invite you to think about from this conversation that you are always in the game. That's one sentence, I think, which pretty much sums it up. But, just to add on, I would like to say the only question whether you're playing it consciously or by default, right? That is the question because you're always in the game, right? And awareness is that one piece, one single thing which is real, honest, present. And I think that has the capacity to really change the game. And that is what makes a difference between drifting through your life versus, actually living it. So that's what I would like to add towards the end. But Steve, thank you so much. Truly, like in every answer that you shared, actually, there was something that did personally resonated with me rather. So it was truly, meaningful conversation and a one filled with so much clarity. So thank you so much for a conversation like this, Steve.
Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. I hope you're on again, and good luck to everybody. And I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, so to all the listeners who are listening to this, folks, this has been Healthy Mind, Healthy Life, which is part of the Healthy Mind Biovic Network, a global platform that is built on the belief that mental wellness is not a destination which you arrive at, it's a way of moving through life. And if today's conversation landed something real for you, maybe sit with it, reflect on what is that you might do, really touch base upon, and do share it with someone who you might need to hear it. And yeah, as you go on about your day, just ask yourself the questions. And I guess that's all. This has been Sayan on Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. And until next time, folks, take care of yourself. And I'll see you in the next one.